I've worked with a number of graphic artists. I've worked with others, with copywriters on different projects. And there's always a challenge, and that's just on the creative side. So I'll focus on that piece first. There's always a challenge of me trying to articulate what I want, and that's a job in of myself that that depends on the client side of it. And then for you as the creative side of it, taking that and creating a product from that, right? And then another level I would add is that taking your own creative abilities and saying, I'm going to flesh that out even more for you and even bring something else more to life, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say that that's where it was excellent. You were able to take everything I was saying, some of the graphics we did have made, and you were able to replicate those and use those, but then you're able to take it to the next level. And you were able to communicate what it is that I was trying to communicate. Hopefully I was doing that. And even when I wasn't, you helped articulate and massage the messaging. And then you took your own creativity and you even took it to another level.
All right, cool. So let's just start. Tell me a bit about the Torah School, about this campaign, how it all came together.
Yeah, sure. So Torah School of Greater Washington, we're an elementary school. We're the Orthodox Jewish Day School where we have strong Torah education, really focused excellence in general studies as well. So non-specific Torah-related subjects and religious matter. And we try to really focus on building up both, an equal amount of focus on both of those. And we're kindergarten through 6th grade.
Awesome. And God willing, I'll be sending my kids there in a few years.
Okay. We're looking forward.
Awesome. So talk to me about this fundraising campaign, the spring campaign, how the idea came about, what the goals were, and generally what the whole purpose of the campaign was.
Yeah, sure. So there are a lot of different pieces to it that we really wanted to bring out with the campaign. It was a crowdsourcing campaign. It was done on a CosMatch platform. And essentially, just to give a little background, crowdsourcing campaign is where you try to recruit ambassadors from your school, whether they're parents, whether they're teachers, their alumni, or other individuals that are really behind the school, to take out their own website, their own webpage, and raise on behalf of the institution themselves. And so we try to tap into the passion of those that are engaged, the stakeholders that are engaged, and really reach out to their networks and raise money on behalf of the institution for causes that they believe in, and really kind of cause a ripple effect as far as the net that we cast by getting net new donors, reaching out to donors that have already donated, but because there's someone else reaching out to them, increase their annual donation, and as well as work with larger donors to help on the matching side of things, to really encourage them to say, we have our ambassadors, and you see that we're really getting behind it as a school community, as a school family, and we really want to try to raise the amount that our larger donors will give on an annual basis and encourage them to give more as well. So kind of find that synergy between our large annual donors that give kind of that large annual donation and get that crowd involved to really create a really successful campaign against something that's very meaningful to them, and kind of causing that ripple effect is the idea of those crowdsourcing campaigns that we're going for. For me specifically, this was my first year in the role as the director of development for the Torah School. I have children in the school, so I do know a decent amount of the community as well. And this was a way for me to also engage the donor base as well in kind of a direct solicitation fashion. As opposed to doing an event and spending a lot of time in organizing an event, it allows me to build relationships with more donors and kind of do direct solicitations for myself and broaden the network that we have as well. The other piece of it was really a database piece that we really wanted to clean up our database. So by having a platform that allows for capturing everybody's information very easily and then matching that back with what our database, whether it's emails, phone numbers, and mailing addresses, we were able to capture all those and develop that. And then the other piece is that we really went back historically, and this is really where your piece came in, Eric, as far as helping with that, over our historical donors. So usually we had a mailing list of about 1,200 or so, but what we did is we took the mailing list that we deal with generally of 1,200, and we went back about close to 2,500 mailing addresses. And we wanted to make sure we got all of our new donors for this year, historical donors that kind of fell off of our radar from our historical records and database, and make sure that we reached out to them in that process. And we wanted to make sure people knew about us, and we wanted to do it in every single channel. That included the mailing channel, which let's get into more of that. It included lawn signs, it included signs around town, at the school, emails, of course, WhatsApp messages, social media, which also we'll get into on your side. And we wanted to, since it's an online campaign, there's no physical event, we wanted to create that event in front of everybody's face all of the time is the idea. And so with the virtual reality, not literally the virtual reality that we're dealing with, but when you're creating an event and there's no physical locale for it, you need to create that presence and touch the donors, the people that are experience it from outside of the organization, and make them feel like it's real and that they're present at it at all times.
Awesome. Good background. One of the things that I remember, I think the way that we started talking about this project was around the data. I think you were just, I forget exactly how we started the conversation, but I do the initial point, but I remember us talking a lot about just like getting your data straight. And you had spreadsheets over here and spreadsheets over there, and you did a lot of work to merge things together and standardize. So I think that, I remember like early on, I think then the conversation became like, oh, by the way, I could actually run your campaign. I think I was just helping you out. You had asked in the beginning for like how many people to target and the decision to use direct mail for this campaign in general. Like what was the thought process like?
Well, I think that I wanted to leave no stone unturned, I think was part of it. I think what we're talking about is that, like you mentioned, we have a donor database. We have our school database, which we manage the student records and the family records. We have spreadsheets from other platforms, like there's a Raise It, which we do payment pages through. We've done auctions in the past, which also Raise It managed as well. And so we had all these different systems and platforms. We did in the past, we've done Cosmatch platforms, right? We have spreadsheets when we used to take notes on people sending in their mailers to RSVP. So we had those spreadsheets. So as you mentioned, we had spreadsheets in different places, and to match up those records is an arduous journey. It's actually been a journey that I've been working on throughout the year. There's still, of course, more work to be done on that, but we made a lot of headway in this campaign, especially working together and doing that. That was a big help, which I'll touch on that point. And so I didn't have email for everybody. I didn't have phone numbers for everybody. We don't know social media presence of all the individuals that we're trying to reach out to. And we had email, we had mailing addresses for mostly everybody. So, and some of them were incorrect, but we still reached out to all of them basically. So the mailer was a very integral piece because one, it notified the people about campaign coming. And two, if we didn't have a point of contact with them via email, phone, or social media, it was essential to get to them. I actually have a good story about that. And there's also a lot of value driven from as well as actually one of our larger donors in the past who's given larger donations. They gave a nice kind of like generational gift in the past, but haven't really given so much over the past few years. We have her email actually, and we also have her phone number, and we've tried reaching out, and it ends up that the only thing that she responded to was the mailer for this. And she's an older woman. And as an older woman, she's very wary, right, of any fraud or any type of foul play. So one of the things that she wanted to make sure of is that she called the phone number on the card. So it happened to be that the longest phone conversation I ever had with an individual who was a very large donor in the past, who we've had trouble getting back in touch with, was by this phone call because she wanted to make sure that it was our institution running this campaign and that I was the right person to speak with. And we had a nice 25-minute conversation from that. But it's that type of thoroughness of running the campaign and trying to engage the donor base, which really drove that. And the really value, even greater than that, was it's a very, high capacity donor potential that made that phone call. And I think that that's one of the essential pieces is that when you're turning over every stone and you have a thorough process that's involved, and we have someone like you to partner with, that we don't have to take that burden on, then the value can really be unlimited. And it's the thoroughness that allows the value to pop up. It's not going to be, we sent out 2,500 mailers, we had X amount, but because we were able to effectively send it out to 2,500 people, even though the percentage was low in that phone call, there's other numbers that we have that were very positive, but that was a very valuable phone call. But we could only do it because we were getting the process in place. You helped manage the process, and it didn't become another full-time job for me to do or whatever, or a part-time job, whatever you want to call it. And that was extremely valuable in that outcome of that.
Awesome. Yeah. I remember seeing in the platform, the tracking, there was like my phone call to test it. And then the next one that came in, I think it might have been someone else testing. And then I saw a 23-minute phone call or 26 minutes.
Okay. There you go.
Like, wow, what are we talking about for 20?
That's
2
right.
minutes.
That's right. And so
And
getting back to the
yeah,
initial question though, that's the idea of how do we, we're trying to get the different databases that we have into one place, all the mailing address, all the phone contact information in one place, and using this mailer process as a way to do that as kind of one of the strategic goals of the campaign. Behind, of course, we need to raise money, and thankfully, thank God it worked out that way too. But this is one of the strategic pieces we were hoping to get in place. And by bringing that all together to the mailer and having your help and helping clean that up too, actually was a big help and a big step forward and help us accomplish that goal as well.
yeah, awesome, cool. So I think that I want to talk next about like what the process working with me was like. Was it like how was it? And like what do you yeah, just generally what were your thoughts working together? What would you improve? What do you think some of the better parts?
Yeah.
And yeah.
So okay, and look, it was amazing, and I mean that candidly. And, I'm not a sugarcoater. I know that there's a lot going on, but it was actually amazing. I've worked with a number of graphic artists. I worked with others, with copywriters on different projects, and there's always a challenge, and that's just on the creative side. So I'll focus on that piece first. There's always a challenge of me trying to articulate what I want, and then and that's a job in of myself that that depends on the client side of it. And then for you as the creative side of it, taking that and creating a product from that, right? And then another level I would add is that taking your own creative abilities and saying, I'm going to flesh that out even more for you and even bring something else more to life, right? And I would say that that's where it was excellent. You were able to take everything I was saying, some of the graphics we did have made, and you were able to replicate those and use those, but then you're able to take it to the next level. And you were able to communicate what it is that I was trying to communicate. Hopefully I was doing that. And even when I wasn't, you helped articulate and massage the messaging. And then you took your own creativity and you even took it to another level and said, oh, wow, not only did you capture what I said, just like I was thinking, but you also said, I'm going to add this and I'm going to make it even a better and bring new creative, whether it was the copy, whether it was the design, and really add an expertise that I wouldn't have been able to do on my own for sure. And working with multiple graphic artists, they have not been able to do it, to kind of add kind of a contemporary touch while maintaining what it is that we want to maintain. And that was on the creative side of it, the creative piece of it.
Yeah, I think one thing I want to comment on there first for the next part is I think with creative there's two approaches really to like on a spectrum. You either just follow all orders and make what the client wants and do it with good thoughtful design, like modern, like using the right fonts and everything, like doing a good job.
Right.
And there's applying your own creativity. And I think that, there's a spectrum. And I think I remember I was working on it and I was like, well, all I have here is just like, this is just following orders. And I think we got on a call and it's like, just tell me in your own words, just like ramble about the campaign.
Yeah.
And there was like this one piece you said about the transition to new leadership, and like the campaign theme was full speed ahead, which like without having any context, like yeah, it sounds like a futuristic campaign. The school's investing in their future, but only through the conversation we had, I was like, oh, we're moving full speed ahead because of the new leadership. Like now that we have the new leadership, everyone's like settled in, and now we're moving full speed ahead. I think like once that clicked, then I was able to incorporate that kind of core message into it. So I think that as a client, that you like, there's it's like a meme that going around probably a few months, about a year ago, is going around that don't worry AI it was like a designer Facebook group or something. It was like, don't worry, designers, AI is not going to take our jobs. It would require clients to actually tell us what they want, because you still have to tell the AI what you want.
Right.
So I think like that collaboration, and I think like that's what I really enjoy doing, is getting to actually the root problem and message we're trying to get across. So
yes, and
you as well.
Yep. And you did an excellent job of that, and you were able to also add kind of that artistic touch that wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, for sure. So yeah, that was awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
And I would just add another piece to it. As a nonprofit, you're wearing many hats all the time. After I left the campaign, the next day I had to go and deal with a fence permit, right? And then so it's like there's all these different pieces that you're juggling, different roles that you're juggling. And so mailers, that's another responsibility. That's another job that you have to do in whatever it is. And there's tasks that are involved with that job. And to be able to say, here you go, here's the mailer. And there's a really white gloves approach to that of saying, oh, this was off, this address off, or this name was off. And like, you're actually catching mistakes that I did. You're managing the actual mailer, the printing to the mail house, to getting it mailed out. And you were able to hold my hand through the tracking process of that. So I was sure that it was really getting done. Not that there's ever a moment that I didn't think it was, but it's always reassuring to be able to say, oh, it's being mailed out, and here are the days that it's arriving in the mailboxes. And then, you get a phone call from someone the next day, they go, oh, I got the mailer, right? So just to see that whole process, yep, you're included, right? You're on that list. I got it, I saw it, And so, I mean, just to see that this whole process of design to print to mail house, and that it was executed on in a timely manner, like we discussed, and that I didn't have to manage that process, and it didn't become a task or an issue that I had to follow up on, is a tremendous value, right? I mean, there's so many things that I have to do with any type of event or any type of campaign or any fundraising, and printing and getting into the mail house and making sure it gets out in a proper time with the proper matchup, and that's a process, and that's another task. And to be able to say from A to Z, soup to nuts, however you want to say, like, here you go, and to add that expertise and the professionalism and the creativity to that whole process, and we're only talking about the mailer right now, is really phenomenal, right? It was really a breath of fresh air. I think it added value to the campaign. It added ease of mind, and it was just excellent. And then the last piece, really, which maybe it is the last piece, maybe I can't remember everything, but is the social media component, right? As mentioned before, that's another expertise that I don't even have a clue about. I don't even know. I wouldn't even know how to set it up. I wouldn't even know about how to implement or even think up how to do it, right? So to have a mailer, when we start talking about multi-channel approach, when we talk about our direct emails, the normal ways we usually get in front of, in phone calls and trying to get in front of individuals, social media is something that, as a nonprofit, and it's not such a comfortable wheelhouse, but to be able to have a mailer that's accompanied by a social media presence for individuals, and then to get the feedback from people like, wow, like, I see you guys everywhere, right? Again, creating that energy, that impact on an eventless fundraising campaign. It's hard to measure those values of what it is. But for an individual, I hear that the average for these types of campaigns, the average donor needs to see the campaign 6 to 7 times, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be a yard sign, it could be an email, it could be a follow-up email, it could be the mailer, and then you get into it, you have the retargeting of the social media ads that comes into play. At a certain point, they say, okay, you have to catch them right at the right moment of when they're ready to give in this world that we live in today, and that they have their phone ready to do what they need to do, and they're not being distracted by something else. You have to be in front of them in every dimension. Yeah. And to have that social media go along with the mailer, with the physical and the virtual, the social media presence, especially also with everything else that we're doing, it's a piece that I think it definitely helps drive the success of the campaign.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned was like the retargeting, and like personally, I recently got a new credit card. I lost my credit card, and my card is saved in my phone, like autofill, and on my computer, but I don't have the security code memorized.
Right.
So there's been all these like donation solicitations, whether it's email or friends saying like, hey, can you fund my, the tournament and this and that. And I always like give 18, 30, whatever, like $36 anytime someone asks, no problem. And I haven't the past 3 or 4 weeks because, or I think it's been a few months now, because I don't have that code memorized.
Right, that's right.
and the thing is, like with retargeting, when you can show back up in somebody's social media platforms, you're getting back in front of them. And like for me, it's like actually it was Zaka, organization in Israel, mm-hmm. and I got an email, and I was like, oh, like they had a compelling subject line. I opened it and read, and like, okay, I should donate here. And I was putting the baby to sleep and didn't have my wallet on me. And I was like, okay, I guess I can't donate right now. I don't have my credit card. And I got an email, and like an abandonment email. And then I was in front of my computer with my wallet, and there you go. So like being able to do that on whether it's email or social media,
that's right,
can really help. Because a lot of times the reason somebody might not donate isn't because they're not interested, or not because they don't have the money. Or like they could have literally been in the middle of it, and then like someone called them, or like a delivery person showed up, and then they forgot. So.
And just to add to that, I mean, it's we're all kind of victim of this. Like when I go sometimes in my email inbox to write an email, well, there might be two other emails there that it's like, oh, and I have to respond to that. And then I forget to do the email that I want to get back
You
to.
were in the draft. Like it's stuck
Right.
in the
Like
draft and
whatever,
nothing's
exactly.
unread. Yeah.
Or someone calls or texts or messages, so we're in a society, in a world now where, better or worse, we have to be able to capture that kind of low, short attention span. And all these
Yeah.
channels
And it's
are,
not because the person wasn't interested. It's not why they didn't reply to your email or why they didn't donate. It's
that's right.
12,000 things can happen in any minutes. I stopped wearing my Apple Watch because it was overwhelming.
Right. Yeah.
I can't handle this. Like I already have WhatsApp and Slack and email and this. So
Exactly.
yeah. Awesome. I think that was some good information, good background on the campaign. Anything else you want to add? Anything else?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, or, anytime you're looking at vendors or contractors to work with, what are the things that you want? You want someone that is dependable, that they're going to do what they're going to say they're going to do. They can add our expertise that you don't have in-house, that they can also, deliver on the value that you're looking for. And, they're good to work with, right? And I would just say that's, you check all those boxes, right? And that your care and your interest in the project itself, you made it your own. It wasn't like, oh, here's another client coming through and let me just check my boxes on what I have to do in order to fulfill this. Like you really, like you mentioned, you got on the call, we talked it out, you really got underneath the hood, you got in the skin of what we're trying to accomplish, who we are as an institution, and you really got behind that passion, right? And you really got invested yourself. And that's an X factor that, as a service provider or however you want to, I guess, call yourself as an individual provides the services that you did and the products that you did, that's also rare and unique. So you check the normal vendor boxes, but the way you invested yourself and you helped really bring that creative edge and drive, it's value that you usually cannot get if it's someone outside of your organization. So
awesome. Appreciate the feedback.
absolutely. Thank you.